Everything repeats over and over again. No one learns anything, because no one lives long enough to see the pattern, I guess.
What if this isn't just a random Adventure Time quote, but one of the harshest truths about life?
We live in a world where we keep making the same mistakes. We lose people, we make bad decisions, we miss opportunities, and yet we keep going without truly learning.
Adventure Time is actually a manual for real life, a blueprint for how to deal with pain, love, fear, and change. Behind the talking dogs, candy kingdoms, and cosmic madness lies a story packed with deeper life lessons than you'd expect. And the crazy part? The most important wisdom doesn't come from Finn and Jake. Some of the most unexpected characters drop the strongest truths at moments when you least expect it.
Want to know how to handle responsibility, loss, fear, and the chaos of existence?
Well, get ready, because the first lesson will forever change how you think about growth.
People make mistakes. It's all part of growing up, and you never really stop growing.
Imagine this. You make a mistake. Not just any mistake, but a big one. The kind that keeps you up at night, replaying over and over in your head.
You think, I'm not good enough, I'm too dumb, I always mess things up. That feeling, that's what holds us back. But here's what Adventure Time is trying to tell you. Mistakes aren't an ending, they're a beginning. The Duke of Nuts may not be the first character that comes to mind, but his words hold one of the most powerful lessons in the entire series. Growth doesn't stop when you become an adult. It never stops. Every mistake, every misstep, and every regret isn't a dead end, but a turning point. Look at Princess Bubblegum. She starts out as a seemingly perfect, intelligent ruler, but the more we learn about her, the more we see how often she makes mistakes, how fear influences her decisions, how she pushes people away, and yet she keeps growing. Or take Marceline, who spends centuries running from her past before finally learning to face it. Even Ice King, a character we all laughed at in the beginning, turns out to be someone far more complex, someone who changes and evolves.
Everyone screws up. Everyone says things they regret. Everyone makes bad choices. But the only thing that matters is what you do next.
And here's the secret. Growing up never really stops. The moment you realize that, you stop fearing mistakes. Because every time you fall, it's just another chance to get back up. But what if the greatest pain we feel isn't even about reality, but about an illusion?
What you're feeling is called infatuation. The pain is a product of you overvaluing a projected imaginary relationship with me.
Heartbreak is one of the most painful experiences. It makes you feel empty, like something has been ripped away from you. But what if the pain isn't from losing someone, but from losing an idea? Finn learns this lesson the hard way. He believes his bond with Princess Bubblegum is deep and real, but she tells him the truth. He isn't in love with her, he's in love with the idea of her. And that realization hurts even more than the loss itself. We all do this. We don't fall for people, we fall for the versions of them we create in our minds. We ignore red flags, convince ourselves they'll change, that they'll become who we want them to be, but they don't, and they never will, because they were never that person in the first place.
That's the real lesson here. Love isn't about creating an illusion. It's about seeing someone for who they really are.
But that's easier said than done, because to truly say things clearly, you first have to understand the difference between hope and reality. Sometimes the truth isn't found in what you feel, but in how you choose to see it.
When bad things happen, I know you want to believe they are a joke. But sometimes life is scary and dark. That is why we must find the light.
There comes a moment in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. You lose someone, you fail at something important, you feel lost, alone, like nothing will ever get better. And when that happens, the easiest thing to do is to pretend it doesn't hurt, to laugh it off, to tell yourself it's not a big deal. That's what we do, right? We avoid the pain, we act like it's just another passing moment. Like, if we ignore it long enough, it'll go away. But Adventure Time doesn't teach us to run from sadness. It teaches us something far more important. Pain is real, but so is joy. And when the world feels overwhelming, the answer isn't to escape the bad, it's to find the good. Life is unpredictable. Some days are filled with laughter, others with loss, and sometimes things get so dark that it feels like there's no way out. But even in the darkest moments, there's always something worth holding on to.
It doesn't mean forcing yourself to be happy. It means looking for small moments of light. A friend who sticks by you. A song that makes you feel something. a memory that reminds you why life is still worth it.
Because even when things feel hopeless, those little sparks of light are still there. But here's the thing, darkness isn't something you experience, it's something you have to learn to navigate. Because sometimes, the worst pain isn't caused by the world around us. Sometimes, it's the pain we refuse to face within ourselves. And that's exactly what the next lesson is all about.
And Jake, sometimes you don't cry because you're afraid of real emotion.
We all do it. We bottle things up. We pretend we're fine even when we're breaking inside. We distract ourselves, tell ourselves it doesn't matter, that we've moved on. But deep down, the pain is still there, waiting. Simon knows this struggle better than anyone. Once a kind, loving man, he loses himself to the Ice King's madness. But even as his memories fade, there's a part of him that knows something is missing. Instead of facing that pain though, he buries it. He hides behind distractions, stories, obsessions, anything to avoid the crushing weight of loss. And that's the dangerous thing about avoiding emotions. They don't just go away, they just get heavier. We think that if we ignore our feelings, they'll disappear. That if we stay busy, if we push them aside, they won't hurt as much. But the truth is, the longer we avoid them, the stronger they grow. We're scared that if we start crying, we won't be able to stop, that if we admit how much something hurt, we'll never recover. But Adventure Time reminds us that emotions aren't the enemy. Pain isn't something to fear, it's something to process. Simon's journey shows us that you can't run from your emotions forever. Sooner or later, they catch up with you. And when they do, you have a choice. Keep suppressing them until they consume you, or finally let yourself feel. Because crying doesn't make you weak. Acknowledging pain doesn't break you, it heals you. But emotions aren't just something you face, they shape the way you see the world, the way you interpret everything around you.
And sometimes the biggest shift in your life doesn't come from changing your circumstances, but from changing your perspective.
Something weird might just be something familiar viewed from a different angle.
We like to think that what we see is the truth, that our first reaction, our gut feeling, is the right one. But what if the way we experience life isn't about reality itself, but about the way we choose to look at it? Life in Adventure Time is chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes terrifying. But instead of fearing the unknown, Marceline's mom teaches her a powerful lesson. Sometimes, all it takes is a shift in perspective to turn fear into understanding. And she's right. We've all been in situations where something felt impossible, a challenge too big to overcome, a problem with no solution, a person who seemed impossible to understand. But what if the issue wasn't the situation itself? What if it was the way we were looking at it? Finn learns this when he stopped seeing Ice King as just a villain and started understanding him as Simon. Marceline learned it when she let go of her anger toward her father and saw him not just as a monster, but as a flawed person who makes mistakes.
Perspective is power. If you can change the way you see a problem, you can change the way you approach it.
But seeing things differently is just the first step. What really shapes who we become is what we do with that understanding. And sometimes that means making sacrifices for something bigger than ourselves.
Because responsibility demands sacrifice.
Doing the right thing isn't always easy. In fact, sometimes it means giving up what you want for the sake of something bigger.
As a ruler, a scientist, and the protector of the Candy Kingdom, Princess Bubblegum understands this better than anyone. Time and time again, she puts her duty before her own happiness. She pushes people away, she makes cold, calculated decisions. She sacrifices parts of herself, her friendships, her emotions, even her morality, all because she believes it's necessary for the greater good of the kingdom. And here's the thing, she's not wrong. Leadership requires hard choices. Taking responsibility does mean accepting the weight of your actions, even when it's painful. Whether it's Finn realizing that his choices impact others, Marceline learning to take control of her own past, or even Simon sacrificing himself to protect Marceline, Adventure Time is clear. If you want to do the right thing, you have to be willing to pay the price. But that's what makes responsibility so tricky. It's not just about doing what's right, it's about knowing when you're sacrificing too much. PB struggles with this for years, isolating herself, prioritizing control over connection, convincing herself that she alone must carry the burden. And that's the danger of responsibility. When you take on too much, when you refuse to let others in, you risk losing yourself in the process. And that's why this lesson ties so closely to the next, because when the weight of the world is on your shoulders, the last thing you should do is let someone else define who you are.
I found this quote on Reddit and other popular sites, but I couldn't find the actual episode of it for after 3 days of searching, but I do think it's too insightful not to share. The quote goes as follows: "There's no point letting them get to you, especially when you have so much to offer the world. Do as the Ice King does and shut out those naysayers," which should allegedly be said by the Ice King.
People will always have something to say about you. Maybe it's criticism, doubt, or people who just don't see your worth. And if you listen too much, you start believing them. Ice King knows what it's like to be dismissed. Everyone in Adventure Time sees him as a joke, a weirdo, a villain. But underneath all that, he's still Simon Petrikov, a man who once had everything, now reduced to someone people laugh at. But here's the wild part. Ice King never lets that stop him. Despite all the rejection, he keeps doing his thing. He writes fanfiction, sings, pursues love, and lives in his own world. Sure, he's misguided, but he doesn't let the world's opinion erase his identity. And in the end, we see that even he has something valuable to offer. Because worth isn't defined by other people. It's something you have to claim for yourself. We all face judgment. Maybe people don't take you seriously. Maybe they tell you you're not good enough. Maybe you start thinking that you'll never be more than the version of yourself they see. But Ice King reminds us that no matter what anyone else says, you still have something to offer.
Catch: accepting yourself is one thing. Learning to accept others, even when they're different from you, that's an entirely different challenge.
People get built different. We don't need to figure it out, we just need to respect it.
It's easy to assume that our way of seeing the world is the right way. That if people just thought the way we did, acted the way we did, made the same choices we made, everything would be fine. Princess Bubblegum falls into this trap constantly. She's brilliant, but she also believes that if she can just control everything, she can make the world a better place. The problem? People aren't machines. They don't always act logically. They don't always do what you expect.
And no matter how much you try to shape people into what you think they should be, they're still going to be who they are.
Throughout Adventure Time, Hebe struggles with this concept. She tries to micromanage the Candy Kingdom. She builds security systems, creates laws, even spies on her own people, all in the name of keeping order. But the more she tries to control things, the more chaos she creates. Eventually, she realizes the truth. You don't have to understand someone to respect them. People have different experiences, different values, different ways of thinking, and that's okay. Respect isn't about agreement, it's about acceptance. Because once you accept that people are different, you realize something even deeper. That something is what Marceline teaches us next.
I don't think there are bad people. I think good people do bad stuff sometimes. But if you only do it once, it's just a mistake.
We like to believe the world is black and white. Good people do good things, bad people do bad things. Simple, right? But reality isn't that easy. People are messy, they make mistakes, hurt others, and do things they regret. Even the best people are capable of doing bad things. Marceline knows this firsthand. She's been betrayed, abandoned, and hurt by people she once trusted. Her father, Hunson Abadir, is literally the lord of the Nightosphere, yet even he has moments of kindness. Simon was once a loving guardian before the Ice Crown twisted him into someone unrecognizable. Even Princess Bubblegum, for all her intelligence, has made some morally questionable decisions.
So, does one bad action make someone a villain? Does one mistake erase everything good they've ever done?
Marceline doesn't think so, and neither should we. Because if we judge people solely by their worst moments, we lose sight of who they really are. And the same goes for ourselves. We all do things we regret. We all say the wrong words, make the wrong choices, and let our emotions get the best of us. But one bad decision doesn't define you. It's what you do afterwards that matters. And that's exactly where this journey leaves us.
So, keep making mistakes. Keep learning. Keep going. But you can't keep going without the wisdom of Finn or Jake, which you can watch by clicking over here or here.